Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us, and I am your host, Ben Crossman. I hope all of you are having a great day. You are all happy, healthy, safe, dry, and, in a good spot. As, of course, the country rebounds from one hurricane and heads into another. Some rough weather ahead for, the southeast, but everyone else, again, I hope you're happy, and Computer America can take your mind off of things even for a little bit. So this Friday, we have a great show planned for you. Everything from, of course, one of our favorite correspondents, and I don't say that about every one of them, but Mr. Ralph Bond himself will be joining us talking about a bunch of different articles and topics that, are, I've described it this way before, and I will so again, helpful. There's a lot about his stories that show the better side of technology, and, it's definitely something to mark your calendars for. So Ralph Bond himself from Autodesk will be joining us here in just a moment. Also, we'll be giving away a prize from our friends over at Logitech. That's right, an M720 Triathlon mouse lets you control up to 3 different computers with a single Bluetooth device. It's it's great, and of course we love giving that away to a lucky listener who entered our contest over at computeramerica.com. And while you're there entering the contest, you can check out the show notes, which of course will have all of the we call them the cheat sheet, but for Ralph, he does a lot of work to put links, the articles, pictures, and so much more over in the cheat sheet, and you can check that out whenever you'd like. And so that's of course at computeramerica.com. And while you're there, also be sure to check out the live video feed where you can watch Computer America and not just listen. So always a lot of fun. And with that, I think we're just going to jump into this because we have a lot to talk about. And folks, we never seem to really finish on time. So Ralph, he is of course with Autodesk, longtime Computer America correspondent, and all around very, very happy guy. So Ralph, thank you for joining us on Computer America once again.
Hey, great to be with you. And of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the people in Florida as they wait for that horrible hurricane. Good Lord. Mm-hmm. And then up here in the Northwest, I'm outside of Portland, Oregon. Of course, we're dealing with these terrific forest fires. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's just awful. Anyway, so hopefully across our entire nation, all this revenge of Mother Nature stuff will calm down and we can move on with our lives.
And of course not to dwell too long on the bad things, but it's so unfortunate to hear about the it's just crazy that these hurricanes kind of happen when they happen, because those fires are such a big story that I heard that not really the wrath of Mother Nature, more like kids who took to playing with fireworks too far. And it's terrible how big those fires have gotten over in the West.
Yeah, it's well, not to labor the point too much, but you're referencing the story about these teenagers. These kids were throwing, I think, either fireworks or smoke bombs off of a 200-foot drop cliff, if I have the story right, into dry tinder brush. What part of it's summer, what part of record-breaking rain and overgrowth of the forest floor, and now it's all dried out, and we're having record-breaking heat waves up in the Northwest. It's cataclysmic like we've never seen before. And then these kids are throwing lit fireworks and smoke bombs off of a cliff and, of course, start this horrendous fire.
Right.
I cannot even begin to understand that mindset. But to your point, let's move on to positive stories about technology.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great idea. And until Smokey Bear comes back, we have Ralph Bond here with us. And so, of course, Ralph, please, for anyone out there who may be new, I know lately we've been getting a lot of new listeners, which we love to see. Tell us a little bit about your background, about Autodesk, and, kind of your role at Autodesk, and what you do.
Yeah, sure. I've been in marketing communications, press relations, and so forth for high tech for, 35 years now or whatever it is. It's a long period of time, going way, way back before the IBM PC when mini computers were the big thing, and then moving into the PC era and all this good stuff. And then for almost 14 years, I was with Intel Corporation. Part of that time, I played the role of consumer education manager touring the country, and that's how I got to know your show and got started with your show many, many years ago. And so wonderful to continue doing that. And then with Autodesk, I just finished the 10-year milestone with Autodesk last month, and been working in the architecture, engineering, and construction part of the company. Autodesk software is much more than just AutoCAD. We have software for all kinds of things, including building design and movie special effects and so on and so forth. So I've had the joy of being with them, and I'm still with them, and away we go from there. It's just been this amazing journey of high tech, and I love to be able to do this show and share some of the things. We'll have a couple stories in today's show that do reference Autodesk. Shamelessly plug Autodesk, but I think they're really great stories, and I think you'll enjoy them.
Right, yeah, and I think that's something that our listeners are always surprised of is, how often Autodesk has something to do with, big blockbuster movies or architecture or, just world events. It's a big deal. So, again, no better man for the job. And so we start, of course, with story number 1. And I mean, how many of us haven't dropped our phone screen, chipped it in some way? This might intrigue you.
Yeah, this is a great story, and of course the headline immediately captured my attention. Motorola patents a display that can heal its own cracked screen with heat. What? Wait a minute. This is a story from The Verge, great outlet. Ashley Carmen is the author. Again, in the show notes that Ben was talking about, please get the show notes when you can. Has links, images, all this good stuff, and as Ben also mentioned, frequently we never make it through all the stories, but you can look at it as kind of a fun reading assignment to pick up on the things we're not able to cover. But going back to this story about Motorola, you can see an image here, and this is really interesting. Now, this is not on the market yet. This is sort of kind of on the future, looking at where we're going, but I think the implications are very interesting. So here's the story. It says Motorola is thinking about a day where phones can heal their own cracks. A patent published today. Now, this story was filed on the 16th of August. So on the 16th of August, Motorola filed this patent. Explains how a phone could identify cracks on its touchscreen and then apply heat to the area in an effort to slightly repair the damage. Now, it's not completely, but it might stabilize it to where you can at least still use the phone, right? The process relies on something called shape memory polymer. Gotta love that. Shape memory polymer, a material that can apparently become deformed and then recovered through thermal cycling. Thermal cycling involves changing the temperature of the material rapidly. And it goes on to say this material could be used over an LCD or LED display with a capacitive touch sensor layered in as well. Although the phone could heat the polymer in order to restore it, a user's body heat can be used too. And the illustration is just below that sentence, as you can see there, Ben. And anybody who has the show notes shows a line drawing of a hand kind of tracing over the crack on the screen, the inference being that your body heat would be used to do this, to evoke this process, right? And then the image down below shows the area defined by the touch, by the heat and so forth, or the heat process happening and it's saying, don't touch the screen because it's doing it itself. It's just a fascinating idea here. Goes on to say, very short little story here, says, while this sounds like the holy grail of phone displays, something tells me we won't be seeing it in real phones anytime soon. The polymer looks like it could feel cheap, unlike glass displays, although maybe rugged devices or gadgets for kids would benefit from this healing idea. I think whether this idea is the final answer or not, I think the idea that you could have some kind of surface treatment that could use heat, either heat induced by the device itself or through body heat, to stabilize a crack, not maybe fully repair it, but at least stabilize it, is a really interesting thing. And you immediately have to think about things like use of smartphones, tablets, and this sort of thing in the military or in the police or fire and rescue or hazardous working condition situations where this kind of thing could be incredibly helpful if you could stabilize a device with this kind of technology. So kudos to Motorola. We'll see where this goes down the road, and I'll bet other people are working on this kind of technology too.
And of course, you got to hand it to Motorola, where they not really recently, but ever since they split, they've been really focusing on, I think, the construction aspects or the business to business aspect. Motorola as a phone company for the average person really isn't a thing anymore. So I think your applications are absolutely right. The only thing I would kind of tell is that in the second diagram where you were talking about the finger going around the cracks.
Right.
The only thing I would mention is that I don't think this would happen through body heat. I think what that finger is doing is identifying where it's damaged. So you kind of drag your screen along the outer edge of the cracks to define the area.
Yeah, kind of defining. Defining the area. Right.
Yeah, and then I bet there's probably the battery, the discharge. Like, I can't imagine something like this happening, either on the fly, like in someone's hand, but maybe for IT people or specialized repair people, maybe this would be kind of like you have to activate it because think about when all those phones were, of course, an exploding battery is not a self-healing screen, but people with hot phones and hot surfaces, not a good mixture. So, but either way, it's very interesting. And Motorola, I had not even thought of that. So good to see there's new research going on.
It is, and you make a really good point because when I saw that line about a user's body heat can be used too, I thought to myself, well, maybe, but you might have to have a very severe fever or something. You'd have to wonder how, the amount of temperature, unless this material is that, if that material is that sensitive to body heat levels of temperature, then it might be impractical. So I think you raise a really interesting, but regardless, it's just kind of great applause to the Motorola folks for at least thinking about this, exploring this. We'll see where this goes. There may be other alternative technologies out there, but the idea of some kind of, I would call it not so much self-healing as self-stabilizing, right? Screen displays. It's a great idea. I think it's well worth pursuing and seeing where it goes.
And in the meantime, everyone, of course, purchase the screen protector for your phones. It will save you a lot of heartache.
Yes, please.
And in the meantime, so let's see. Story number 2, the world's largest data center. And that's something about data centers, and we're gonna get into why it's being built in the Arctic Circle. But data centers in general, I guess people really don't, really think about it because it's not something that the average person would have in their home. But a data center, it's essentially, the core parts of your computer, be it the graphics card, the processors, whatever, all crammed into a giant building where they can do, massive amounts of computation, on a large scale. And, electricity is one thing, which we're going to talk about, but heat dissipation. It's like, imagine how hot your laptop gets. Now, cram 100,000 of those laptops into cabinets and put them in one building. There's a lot of heat in there. So this is why this location and this story are so interesting, because they found a way to, I think, kind of work with both.
Yeah, I thought this was a hoot as well, and you make a really good point here. Again, I live outside of Portland, Oregon, and we have some data farms, if you want to call them that, storage farm businesses, and they're huge, massive tilt-up concrete buildings. But you look on top, and they have these amazing AC chilling towers, all this stuff to try to keep things at a reasonable temperature. And then in the eastern, kind of remote, semi-desert-like area of eastern Oregon, there's a number of these data farms and so forth out there too as well. So this is something that we're really familiar with in this part of the world. But I loved this story because I thought, oh wait, why not build these someplace where it's kind of cold all the time? And that's what this story is all about. This comes from Building Design and Construction magazine, a story by David Malone, and the title of the story is "The World's Largest Data Center is Being Built 140 Miles North of the Arctic Circle." Wow. Okay, and there's a cool picture, a great link to the story that shows you an artist's idea of what this facility will look like when it's finished. it starts off, it says Balagen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Ballangen, Balagen, Norway, located about 140 miles north of the Arctic Circle, will be home to the largest data center in the world when it completes construction in 2018. Not that far off, right? Balagen was selected because of Norway's abundance of green energy, cool climate, large technical workforce, and its access to international high-performance fiber in neighboring Sweden. So it's sort of like this perfect storm of all these factors coming together, right? The site's secure, I love this, secure moated property. Hey, great, let's bring back the Middle Ages and have moats again. Gotta love that, right? The site's secure moated property was also a deciding factor in selecting Balagen, according to Kolos, K-O-L-O-S, the American and Norwegian company behind the data center. So this is a collaboration between American and Norwegian team coming together. The green facility is within 25 kilometers of a huge amount of excess hydropower. Wouldn't that be nice to have excess hydropower?
Yeah.
That will allow the data center to scale up to 2 gigawatts of consumable renewable power, which is more than any other data center location in the world today, of course. The use of wind energy will also help the facility achieve its goal of being powered by 100% sustainable energy. So start thinking, get out in your mind a checklist here. Largest data center in the world, Arctic Circle, completely run by sustainable energy. It all starts, you just keep going, yes, this makes tremendous sense, right?
I'm sorry. I'll comment after you finish. So please go ahead.
Oh, no worries. Just to wrap it up here, again, the images are terrific. The 600,000 square meter climate-cooled Kolos facility will be powered by hydropower and will scale beyond 1,000 megawatts of computing power. High-speed traffic to continental Europe and as far off as the United States East Coast will be routed from the Kolos node through the Swedish high-performance fiber. HDR, by the way, is the name of a construction and design firm. HDR designed the 4-story data center along a central spine with the building forms arranged to mimic a glacier's movement as it displaces swaths of land. It's sort of an homage to the surrounding environment, right? At the base of the spine are modules or data halls that are secure, scalable, and connected. At the terminus on the water, the spine becomes a public space clad in copper and acts as the gateway to the public waterfront promenade. HDR says the alluvial fans, glaciers, and mountains that surround the site inspired the design of the overall data center. I love it.
A lot of, obviously they went above and beyond to make a data center. You know, if you've seen really most other data centers, they're essentially large warehouses, think like Costco's, but with racks inside of them and cooling. Like, they're not cool at all. And they seem to really, you know, have made the effort to say that this is going to be not only something for businesses, but for people as well. I definitely enjoyed the fact that, you know, it had that right mix of renewable energy and high-speed internet and location. I mean, this was, I heard about this. I probably wouldn't have heard about this if it wasn't for you, but you know, I definitely like that they took the extra effort for, you know, taking renewable energy into consideration, because, you know, as oil, natural gas, coal, things like that become, you know, start to phase out of new construction, you know, it's just going to make more sense, and how scalable this thing is going to become. I love everything about this story. Good find.
Yeah. And take a look again at the illustrations. If you have the show notes, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. The artist's rendition, either one of them, look carefully. Most of the rooftops of this kind of cascading alluvial fan-like complex have green roofs. They're planted, so it harmonizes better with the surrounding landscape. It doesn't. Yes, there's a building. Yes, you're putting man-made things there. I'm not trying to say that's not happening, but The green rooftops are really great, and they also play a role, in helping to dissipate heat from all the computing gear and so forth that's inside. So you have the surrounding climate plus these green rooftops, and the natural fact that you're, above the Arctic Circle in a basically cooler climate than you and I are used to, all comes together to help this be a really sustainable, really cool. I love this solution.
Yeah, and it looks like the prime, because the roofs are all, of course, angular. It looks like the prime parts of the roofs are also solar powered. So solar, natural. I'm sorry, the geothermal.
Hydro.
There you go. Hydrothermal, geothermal, whatever it may be. Just a good story. So we have time to get into our next story. Story number 3: Gadgets converts smartphones into laser rangefinders. And I'll admit, I've only had to use lasers in home construction a handful of times. I'll be honest, Ralph, I really know very little what impact lasers have in current construction. But what is this story?
Oh, yeah. And by the way, in the modern world of construction, laser scanners are just amazing. In fact, there's a company called Leica, Leica, that has a product called the BLK360, and it's the smallest, most affordable scanner for scanning what we call in the architecture building business as-built environments. So you can go into maybe a 200 or 300-year-old building and scan the whole thing and create a model and so forth and so on. So scanning is a big, big deal. But this story from engineering.com, story by Mark Howe, title is Gadget Converts Smartphones into Laser Rangefinders. I'll give you a little advance warning. This has a shameless Autodesk plug coming embedded in the story. But it's still a fun story. I think it's great. So here's the story. Architecture, engineering, and construction professionals can now use their mobile phones or tablet devices as compact, portable surveying instruments by means of a software application that is capable of interacting directly with AutoCAD. AutoCAD, of course, is the foundation product, design product from my company, Autodesk, right? Mm-hmm. It goes on to say the spread of mobile smart devices in tandem with cloud computing has dramatically expanded the potential for sophisticated AEC software. AEC, again, is architecture, engineering, construction software, such as BIM, which stands for Building Information Modeling, to be deployed directly on site. BIM, by the way, if you get into my field, you'll hear this all the time. Basically, think of a building design on your computer screen, a 3D model. All the components, think of them as being like modules in a spreadsheet with intelligence for each item. So if the designer says, oh, you know what, we need to make this window bigger, everything in the design that's impacted by that decision automatically adjusts. That's a super duper, super simplified explanation of building information modeling. But anyway, I'd give you some context. So it goes on to say one example of a recent innovation in this field is the SPIKE, S-P-I-K-E, SPIKE Smart Laser Measurement Solution developed by Ike GPS. The product consists of the SPIKE device, mobile app, and cloud platform, meaning cloud computing, which are compatible with both Apple iOS and Google Android devices, so your phones or tablets, right? Mm-hmm. Ike GPS's SPIKE can be attached to smartphones with a quick release clamp or to a tablet case using high-strength tape in order to transform either device into a laser rangefinder for measurement and surveying purposes. It's very clever. The SPIKE device enables your smartphone or tablet to capture the precise dimensions and locus of an object from a simple photograph, and it encompasses a range of real-time measurements, including area, height, length, and width, as well as the location of the targeted object. This saves users both time and money by dispensing with the need for costly specialist instruments, such as laser scanners. Think of those tripods you see the surveying guys on the roads using the laser scanners, and removing the time-consuming manual measurement process. According to Ike GPS, the ability to use a smartphone for surveying purposes can cut down on the time required to measure a project and produce importable files from multiple days to mere hours. Thanks to the enhanced connectivity provided by modern mobile devices, users can employ the Spike mobile app or Spike Cloud to save pictures and share them in a range of standard formats, including JPEG, PDF, XML, KMZ, and so forth. Compatibility, accessibility, and data sharing are all vital to modern architecture, engineering, and construction platforms, such as building information modeling, because of the need to foster collaboration between the multiple stakeholders for complex and large-scale projects. Okay, let's cut to the chase. Basically what they're saying is, they're not saying this is good enough to replace sophisticated tripod-mounted scanners. Nobody's trying to say that. What it is saying, though, is you can have a scaled-down, affordable, and highly democratized solution that might work and do the job well for many situations, thus saving time and money and so on. And again, democratizing this whole idea of scanning and getting measurements.
And we're seeing a similar kind of theory put forward with like medicine, where you take a smartphone, a tablet, these things that we all have access to, for our personal use, and they've gotten powerful enough, they've gotten sophisticated enough that you can start to do things like this. Because, you couldn't do this with the iPhone 1, but now with the iPhone 7, hey, you could probably make something like this work with, because you have enough, computational power in your phone to take measurements, to make these files, to then export them. So it just kind of goes to show it's a company, not, like you said, not trying to replace a highly sophisticated and probably way more advanced system than this. But hey, it's something, it's a start, and anyone could do it with, tools you already kind of have. So
exactly right.
bad.
Yeah, no, Ben, it's to your point. It's just, every time we talk, and all your other guests, I'm sure too, I simply cannot imagine how much utility we get out of our smartphones. There's millions of creative people coming up with these amazing things to do stuff with your phone that Steve Jobs never ever would have thought of in the beginning, right? When it was introduced, what is it, 10 years ago now, the first iPhone? Was it something like that?
Yeah, they're about to announce the 10th anniversary iPhone next week. So yeah.
Oh, isn't that something? I mean, who would have thunk all this stuff would happen? It's sort of like the PC, right? Once the personal computer got out there, who would have thought about all the apps? But I think it's even more miraculous to think of what we're doing with these handheld phones that are in our pockets.
Right, which kind of led us to a conversation last night at the dinner table. Well, a couple nights ago, with the price of the Samsung Galaxy S8 Notes, phone, whatever it may be, coming in at $930 for a fully unlocked phone. And the Apple iPhone probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,000 with the anniversary edition. Ralph, I mean, I was talking to my parents. I was like, what do you think about $1,000 phone? I mean, something that, when it was a phone, you paid $20 for, and $5, whatever they paid for it, to hang one on the wall. And now we have these things in our pocket, and we're paying more than ever for these smartphones. Do you think that those prices are justified, for $1,000 for a smartphone?
I think it depends. And the depends part really is, how much are you going to take advantage of the amazing capabilities, right? If all we're talking about is, I'm just going to send text messages, and I'm just going to use it as a phone and do light surfing for information and that sort of thing, and that's the extent, then I would have a hard time justifying $1,000 for that kind of a solution. But if you're a professional, whether you're a professional in the field of medicine, as you mentioned, or in the field of architecture, engineering, construction that I just noted, or a host of a wealth of professions where what you're really talking about is a powerful, very compact personal computing device, really, cloud connected, all that sort of thing, then your equation to decide whether this makes sense to spend $1,000 changes dramatically. And for example, a company like Autodesk or any of our customers in the architecture, engineering, construction area might think, for what my employee can do with this device, sure, $1,000, where do I sign up, right? It's all a question of what you're using it for.
So you're saying because when the iPhone was first introduced, I think it was like the first iPhone, it was something in the neighborhood of $500, and now we're looking at 1,000. But you're saying that, you know, even though the price has maybe doubled, the use cases and, you know, and the usage of these things has, you know, way more than doubled, is what you're saying. It's still useful.
Yeah, and it's an interesting point. If you were use a use case amortized use case equation of sorts, you could say the $1,000 is a bargain for its potential.
Absolutely.
Its potential.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and with that, Ralph, I know you can hear it, but everyone, the music means we're going to take a break, and we're going to leave it off right there. And when we come back, we're going to talk about virtual reality and augmented reality. But hey, we're going to put you on Mars. So, be right back, Computer America, just after this.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
Oh, shoot. If I was more prepared, I would have this under control. Computer America, Ben Crossman, thank you for joining us. Of course, talking to Ralph Bond and, of course, Autodesk by extension. And yeah, you know, before we get back to our news and stories, though, Ralph, we have a winner to announce on the air here. So,
all right.
Yeah, all right. So let's see. We should draw it right now, though. And in the meantime, everyone, once again, computeramerica.com, entry form right there. And we could be calling your name right now. So, Ralph, if you wouldn't mind, let's do the digital drums.
Let's do it.
All right. And it's right here somewhere. And there it is. I found it. All right. So, drum roll. And the winner is Mr. Jason Elliott. Jason Elliott, he listens to us from Lake Worth, Florida. Oh my goodness. Lake Worth, Florida. So yeah, that's right next door to where the show first started. And yeah, good luck with that hurricane. And of course, coming, I'm sure sometime after the hurricane, will be your prize from Logitech. Once again, the M720 Triathlon mouse. So Jason Elliott, all he had to do was visit Computer America on Google Plus and just checked in there. And of course, we'll send his prize out to him post haste. So if you want to be one of these lucky listeners and one of these lucky winners, again, Computer America, there's like 9 different ways to enter. Check it out. You won't regret it. So Jason, thank you for listening and thank you for participating. So everyone, once again, Ralph Bond, and we are just about to jump into this next article. Again, if you want to follow up on these articles, if you want to check them out for yourselves, if you want to make sure that, hey, we're not just lying to you, be sure to check out the cheat notes in the show notes. And so for everyone following along at home, story number 4, HP, of all people, brings Mars to life through virtual reality, where the VR experience explores what human life could be like on Mars in 2030.
Yeah, this is cool. And I'll do another one of my shameless Autodesk plug factor warnings, because there's a little bit of that in this story too. But it's a great story, and it is fun. It's applause to HP for being involved with this. You're going to find out this is pretty cool. The story is from IPT.net, a story by Alexander Sophocles. Hope I'm saying that right. Peary. And Ben gave you the title. There's a great, fun kind of artist's conception image in the article here. And here's the story. It says, working in close collaboration with partners NVIDIA, Autodesk, Fusion, Launch Forth, Technicolor, Unreal Engine, and Vive, HP has launched the HP Mars Home Planet, HP Mars Home Planet, a global virtual reality project that shows what future life on Mars could be like. Now, it builds on the pre-existing NASA, by the way, Mars 2030 project, so it builds on that. It's creating a VR experience created by Fusion and the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, of course. HP Mars Home Planet brings together engineers, designers, artists, and architects to help advance the experience beyond the year 2030. So it's sort of speculate what human occupation of Mars would be like.
Mhm.
Produced and managed by an outfit called Launch Forth, a product development community, HP Mars Home Planet is a year-long program that aims to depict how life on Mars will evolve with families and the development of communities.
Yeah,
Now, Gwen,
yeah, I mean, just real quick, I mean, that's something I really never really thought of, because when you think about, the future on Mars, you think maybe something like, that one movie with Matt Damon, or,
oh yeah,
scientists, engineers, people with, very, very smart people going to colonize. You don't think about families and the idea of people, bringing kids along.
Oh yeah, exactly right. Yeah, yeah. And the image that they have, the artistic rendition, is really great because it kind of gives this sort of fantasy.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the 1950s at Disneyland, not Disney World, in Anaheim. They had the future area of the park, and they had some great models of what life could. Anyway, I digress.
Right.
So it says here, go on here with a quote. It says, Gwen Coble, Director, Workstations. Get a load of this job title. Gwen Coble, Director, Workstations, Thin Clients, Retail Solutions, and Immersive Computing, EMEA for HP. Said, quote, in 2016, we conquered the International Space Station with our HP ZBook workstations powered by NVIDIA Quattro graphics. And now we have set our sights on Mars, she goes on to say. Through HP and partner technology, we are unleashing engineers, architects, designers, and students, by the way, to help anticipate and solve the real-world problems we'll face to inhabit Mars one day. The first step of the project will be focused on the home planet's Mars urbanization challenge. At this stage, participants will focus on both transportation and infrastructure concepts for the, I hope I'm saying this right, Marworth, MAWRTH Valley on Mars. This will be quickly followed by the concepting phase where 3D modeling and rendering will be completed. To design 3D models of Martian buildings, vehicles, and infrastructure, participants will utilize Autodesk software, while the Unreal Engine will be used to create the final VR simulation. And Unreal Engine, by the way, friends, if you're not familiar, is a core enabling technology for gaming, for example, and many other uses as well for virtual reality. So that's kind of, I don't know, I just thought this was fun on multiple levels. One, the kind of futuristic thing, the collaborative nature of this, the fact that HP is the host, if you will, of this one-year collaboration. I just thought there were so many cylinders it was firing on of interest that I wanted to bring this story to the audience.
And I guess the Autodesk plugin being Maya would probably be the software that's used to generate, or at least design, all these buildings. So it could play a role. It's certainly the design part could be things like our Revit, REVIT for buildings, and then something like InfraWorks or Civil 3D. Those are software packages for designing infrastructure and civil infrastructure elements like bridges and all that good stuff. So I mean, our software might be sprinkled throughout there in a variety of different ways. I got you.
In addition to the visualization part which 3ds Max would apply to. Yes, the next story also has a shameless Autodesk plug when you're ready.
Yeah, and and this next one, to kind of put a little bit of a Computer America spin on it, we will say that we just interviewed Zero Drones, XIRO. We interviewed them I think a week or two ago, and they were kind enough to send us one, and it was really our first experience with a drone. That we could, kind of play with ourselves. Of course, the first thing that we did was, because we live in such an odd-shaped building, we wanted to check out, the roof. And because we never go up there, we just hire workers to. And we took our drone and we were able to fly it over our roof, check everything out, and found a little bit of damage that we have to take care of. But no, drones are super helpful. But I will say that even the ones facing consumers, or anything really more than a toy, they're still relatively expensive for, such a useful tool to a lot of people. So that's why I like this next one. Is any way that you can kind of get that cost down is really going to help a lot of people, and especially the military, who I would consider, I think a lot of their tools would be considered expendable, in certain situations. So yeah, please go ahead. Story number 5, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about drones, when you're talking about drones for police work or fire work, or certainly the military, the kind of drones that we're talking about in the military are really expensive, and that's why this story is so important. So the title of this story, and by the way, this story got picked up by many, many outlets. I just happened to pick up the story that was used by an outfit called 3Deers, 3, the number 3, DERS.org, 3Deers.org. Story simply called, the name is applied just Benedict. It doesn't give a last name or anything. But the headline is Meet Scout, the U.S. Marines' new 3D printed drone that costs just $613 to build. Now, $613 may sound like a lot of money, but you're going to find out in the context of what the Marine Corps and our other military branches have been using, it's a fraction of the cost. So the potential here is really cool. There's an image. It looks like a little model airplane. It's that kind of a drone. It's not one of your multi-prop kind of drones that you might be thinking of, but rather more like a model airplane kind of drone. And here's the story. It says the U.S. Marines are well on the way to becoming masters of 3D printing. Just a week after we saw the Marine Corps testing out its portable 4-printer XFAB additive manufacturing lab, and there's a link in there for that. That's very interesting. Here we have news that 26-year-old Corporal Rhett McNeil, a graduate in aerospace engineering from Georgia Tech, has made an ultra-affordable surveillance drone that costs a fraction of the price of the Marines' current technology. Scout, the fixed-wing surveillance drone built by McNeil, came about thanks to the 2016 Marine Corps Logistics Innovation Challenge, which encouraged participants to come up with new tech solutions. I'll stop for a second here. I'm very encouraged to hear that our military are doing something like this. 2016 Marine Corps Logistics Innovation Challenge. Bravo. How great to challenge their members. Hey, and here's this guy, a 26-year-old fellow, obviously pretty bright guy, aerospace engineering from Georgia Tech, takes the challenge and comes up with something, but I digress. Back to the story. It says the contest was organized by the Marine Corps' Next Generation Logistics Innovation Group, NEXLOG. Everything has to be an acronym in the military and technology community, of course, established in 2015. Now, but McNeil's work on the project predates that competition by several months. The corporal started work on the drone at Penn State's Applied Research Laboratory, but later won a 4-month residency at Autodesk's San Francisco Pier 9 Technology Center. That's the Autodesk shameless plug, where the Marine had access to heaps of 3D printing tech, as well as CNC machines, advanced software, and expert guidance from those in the field. And by the way, I threw out an acronym there that perhaps some in the audience might not know what it means. CNC, C as in Charlie, N as in Nancy, C as in Charlie, CNC machines. That, by the way, refers to computer numerical control, is one in which the functions and motions of a machine tool are controlled by means of a prepared program containing coded alphanumeric data. So it's basically computer-controlled drilling machines, shaping machines, cutting machines, all that kind of thing. That's what CNC refers to, and that's part of what the corporal had access to at our Pier 9 Technology Center in San Francisco. Now, back to the story. It says McNeil's time spent at the Autodesk facility could reap big rewards for the Marines, and by default, folks, us as taxpayers. Check this out. At present, the Marines use the RQ-11 Raven and the RQ-12 Wasp 3 drones, fitted with cameras to carry out surveillance work. We've all seen it in the movies. We've seen it in the footage from the Iraq and Afghanistan and all that kind of good stuff, right? But get this, those drones cost $35,000 and $49,000 respectively. But wait, there's more. and require $100,000 plus ground control systems. Yikes. Making them risky pieces of kit to use in case they break. And we're talking about being used in combat situations, right, guys? So there's a quote coming up here. It says, quote, "We have these drones that do 100 things that make them cost between $35,000 and $50,000. But the soldiers normally only use the 2 or 3 big capabilities," Corporal McNeil explained. He goes on to say, "I wanted to strip it down to what we actually use so that our drone does not cost so much. We are afraid to use it. If you break it, not a big deal." And there's more pictures in the show notes here of the drone in question. Goes on to say, last year, McNeil's adaptable and affordable 3D drones proposal, written with a team of 5 other collaborators, was one of 17 successful ideas out of 300 submissions to Nextlog's 2016 Logistics Innovation Challenge, which again was sponsored by the Marine Corps. Another quote here from McNeil. He says, "Every Marine has an assault pack that's standard issue," McNeil said. "I made my drone so it can snap apart into 4 parts and fit into the pack. For somebody that has never messed with it before, it takes about 2.5 minutes to assemble." Love it. It's not just easy to build either. It's also really cheap. Now, here's the part that's going to put that $600 thing into perspective. Costing just $613 with off-the-shelf electronics and 3D printed parts, the drone can be controlled with a Q Ground Control iPhone app. Everything included, McNeil explains. It's 200 times cheaper than the currently used WASP drones. Now, let's be fair. The WASP drones are very sophisticated, as Corporal O'Neill explained. They can do many, 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 many things that justify the enormous cost. But what he's saying as a trooper is, hey, let's get real. Out in the field, there's 2 or 3 functions that we use 98% of the time. Therefore, why not go to something that costs $613? And I couldn't agree more. It's just wonderful.
Well, that and also say that, while, for specialized missions, of course, these more expensive drones only make sense. But now that something costs, instead of, $30,000-$40,000, instead you can get something that costs $600, you can probably equip a lot more people with these drones. That's, otherwise, like you wouldn't be able to give everyone, one of these WASPs, but you could probably give one person in every squad a $600 drone. It's a much lower barrier to propagate the technology.
Exactly right. It's so true. And the story goes on. It's a bit of a long story, but I thought it was so good I wanted to share it. So it goes on to say, whether the Scout, that's the name of the drone that Corporal McNeil came up with, gets put to widespread use depends on what happens next. Design files and build specifications for the 3D printed drone have been sent to the MITRE Corporation, which supplies and tests many of the Marines' drones and which will attempt to certify the Scout. If all goes well at MITRE, the Marines could have a highly cost-effective solution on their hands, all thanks to a contest and the engineering expertise of one of its corporals. Here's a quote. It says, "The Marines have always been pushing innovation and have always had a forward-thinking mentality," said Jennifer Walsh, Innovation Challenge Lead at the Marine Corps headquarters in Washington, D.C. She goes on to say, "We want Marines to have the potential to use 3D printing or additive manufacturing to quickly go through the design process and make things possible." And it closes here by saying McNeil is now returning to training and service, but know that his brilliant creation could soon be flying overhead. So bravo, 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 and I'm so proud that Autodesk played a role in giving Corporal McNeil access to our design center in San Francisco.
Right, yeah, it's, having access to tools like that, of course, it sounds like if anyone was prepared to do something like this, it would be a gentleman such as himself who, has has access to, things such as Autodesk, having access to, I forget which college he went to have their
Georgia Tech,
a Penn State's Applied Research Laboratory that he used as well. I mean, it sounds like this guy,
yes, right, yeah.
It sounds like this guy had a lot of tools, and he, luckily was able to have something pop out of it. So Really awesome indeed. So, Ralph, in these last 10 minutes, let's start cherry picking some of our favorite stories because, folks,
Yeah.
we're not going to get to all of them. So, if you wouldn't
Yeah, that's right.
mind, one of my favorite was, kind of building off of the idea of, because, military applications, awesome, architecture, great, but to, I think, give people a little bit more, down to earth use cases. And it kind of builds off of, HP and the Mars and AI and VR. Story number 9. And this is a company that combines AI and VR, so artificial intelligence and virtual reality,
Yes.
to help retailers improve their store layouts, which is important.
Yes.
So let's talk about story
Yes.
number 9.
Yes, and I love this story too because we think about AR, VR, the Vive goggles, all these groovy things as being for gaming and entertainment, and they are, and that's great, and nothing wrong with that. Or like the HoloLens from Microsoft and so on. But this shows again how this kind of technology, unleashed, put out there, can find itself being used for some very interesting ways. And this comes from the Next Web site. The story is by Tristan Green. It's called "This Company Combines AR and VR to Help Retailers Improve Store Layouts." So we're going to bring it right into your local shopping center here. The story says, across the globe, in millions of storefronts, employees build displays and arrange products in a bid to get customers to buy things they hadn't planned on. Impulse buy, right? It's called a store plan, and thanks to the marriage of AI, data analysis, and virtual reality, the concept is much smarter than it's ever been. These plans are traditionally conceived in warehouses, giant physical spaces mocked up to resemble the interior of a store. This seems like a huge waste now that technology is making it more feasible to create a virtual environment to tinker in. So that's the idea here, right? You're a retail store planner, old model, take a giant warehouse, empty it out, create almost like a stage set. But they're saying, wait a minute, with VR, we can do this virtually and save tons of money and time. So In Context Solutions has a better idea. That's the name of the company we're talking about. Get rid of the building, recreate the storefront in VR, and put AI, artificial intelligence, on the shelves to aid in the creation of smarter store layouts. We spoke with its Chief Technical Officer, Tracy Weidmeyer, who told us the pressure that retailers are getting from the Amazons of the world, it can be boiled down to the need to really facilitate a better customer experience. And of course, Tracy's referring to brick and mortar store experiences, right? The company recently launched a VR headset solution on its Shopper MX platform, which allows retailers to create store layouts in an immersive VR environment. And it goes on to say, we know customers aren't quite ready to start shopping in VR, but retailers can save more than just overhead, according to Weidmeyer. I hope I'm saying that right.
Right.
She goes on to say, a lot of retailers start planning Christmas layouts in June. We allow them to visualize what that's going to look like in a virtual environment exactly as the customer will see it. And we're not just saving them money, we're saving them time. And I'm going to stop here for a second, throw in a little commentary in that you might be thinking the same thing. If you have to take a warehouse and if you have to dress it out like a stage set to role play ideas for store layouts, you're talking about a fixed environment, aren't you?
Yeah.
So anyone who needs to be part of the decision to evaluate and so forth, maybe you could wander around with a camera and take videos and so forth. But wait a minute, with VR and the cloud, I could be in Paris, you could be in Hong Kong, and another person in Texas, and we could all collaborate on a store layout virtually through VR. So that's another thing that makes this intriguing to me.
Yeah, it's not just, being able to, kind of see other people's ideas, but also the fact that you could, have, like, I could kind of see an entire service out there where you send them the dimensions of your store and you say, hey, I need the best layout for this.
Yeah.
And then you outsource it to, a company that does this strictly in VR. You can check on the progress anytime you want. And, hey, you can outsource your store planning to another company. Hey, maybe. I don't know.
That's genius. No, you're right. And why not office planning, office space planning?
Yeah,
same
that too.
concept. Any kind of spatial planning, layout sort of things for a commercial environment. Gosh, yeah, you're right. I mean, you could go on and on. But back to the story, it says retailers are sitting on data that's 5 or 6 years old, according to Weidmeyer, and that's why his company does more than just create virtual tours. The VR solutions they provide are created using data compiled by artificial intelligence. That's interesting, right? Instead of relying on basic reports or sales figures, in-context solutions uses AI to find patterns that humans either can't or couldn't without taking years to compile it. These patterns drive the experience that we, as customers, see when we walk into a store. The results of the AI VR hybrid on the Shopper MX platform, that's the platform created by this in-context solutions company, are accessible and work with a variety of devices. In-context solutions isn't just leveraging technology to come up with a one-size-fits-all answer, as Weidmeyer told us. Here's a quote: "We really didn't want to try and pick a winner when it comes to one device over another. But one thing we're sure of is that we aren't in the hardware business. We chose to stay device agnostic," smart move, "so that we've worked with a lot of different things." AI predicts the shopping trends, coupled with VR that's only used behind the scenes, might not be the most entertaining way to use these technologies for customers, but it's probably the most useful for retailers. So part of what's going on here with this AI business they were referring to, you're going to hear this term, Ben, you've probably already heard it, but you're going to hear it more and more and more: machine learning. It's a variation of AI in a sense. It's the programs and the devices learning and incorporating that into AI decision making, as it were. And that's a fascinating thing that's evolving now as we speak. But I am with you. I thought this was a really fun story.
Yeah, and of course, speaking a little bit to machine learning and throwing in something that we covered during one of our other news segments, I think earlier this week. But they're coming up with a new way for, I guess, machine learning. Like if you teach a program to figure out how to, let's say, provide customer service for a product, and all that artificial intelligence knows is, and of course you train it, and all it knows is customer service. And then you say, hey, I want you instead to work on I don't know, storefront planning, just like this. And then the AI is kind of useless because it only knows one thing, and it tries to adapt customer service to a completely unrelated field. So it's something along the lines of, you have to completely wipe out the entire artificial intelligence just to get it to learn a new task. It can't take what humans do, which is build upon experiences and, kind of like true intelligence, apply what you know from one field into another without them being strictly related. And that's a story that we kind of covered earlier this week, was that I think someone from, it was something like MIT or one of those smart places, they are working on a solution to make artificial intelligence actually build upon its own experiences. And potentially, maybe one day, it will be able to do multiple things and not just one specialized thing at a time. But I don't know how that's really relevant to this particular story, but AI is definitely a huge thing in the coming future. So, yep.
Well, and again, the trend to watch for is the combination of AI with machine learning. Machine learning is the part of the equation that's sort of bubbling up as the sexy, groovy thing to keep your eye on, building on AI. So AI getting fed by machine learning. It's freaky weird, and it's really, and in the world I'm in, the architecture, engineering, construction world. If any of the listeners are interested, come out to Autodesk.com and do a search under the terms Project IQ. So the letters I and Q, Project IQ. And what you're going to discover is a machine learning approach to dealing with real world construction management situations. So we've got this software that's a tablet and smartphone based and so on. The solution is aimed at those kind of portable devices and that sort of thing. And it works in harmony with other solutions we have as well for the construction industry. But the idea is, through machine learning and AI, it can help the construction management team. You can alert them to potential problems that are coming up based on experiential things that the machine learning database. I mean, it's just, you got to read about it. It's so much fun to think of something like AI and machine learning it seems
Absolutely.
oxymoronic to think about construction, because construction is, for most people, is sort of hard hats and pickup trucks and drinking beer. And no, it's
Right.
very high tech.
Very high
Very
tech.
high tech these days.
Very high tech, and of course, Autodesk is providing a lot of tools to make it as such. So, with that, the music means that we are just about done here. Ralph, I want to thank you once again for being on with us. We'll be sure to catch you next month, and really, stay safe with all that smoke out there, and everyone else out there. Thank you for checking out another week of Computer America. Be back Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, and batten down the hatches. Get ready for some wet weather. And we'll be back Monday, bright and early. Everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.